That was my invitation.
Right.
For my dance.
Gentlemen, ladies, gentlemen.
Forget mine.
Good evening, everyone. We can call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. and ask the city clerk to read the statement of compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act into the records.
This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, with the meeting schedule advertised in the January 10, 2024 edition of the Trenton Times. The meeting agenda was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall and the city's website, and with the meeting notice sent to members on the listserv, department heads, and the city engineer on Friday, January 15, 2024. This meeting is being recorded and streamed live using the Zoom meeting platform. Roll call,
Please.
whoops. Hold on one second. Okay. Councilwoman Kaminsky. Here. Councilman Lyde.
Here.
Councilman Stegman.
Here.
Council President Lambert. Here. Mayor No.
Here. All right, everyone, please rise for the pledge of allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of troops serving here and abroad. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. To the United States, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening. What's that? Too loud?
No,
Not loud enough? Yeah.
Wrong.
Good to see you all here tonight. We're going to begin the meeting with our first public participation session. So if you are a member of the public and would like to speak, we would ask that you step up to the podium unless you have mobility issues. You have 3 minutes to speak. Questions, concerns, comments. Please state your name and address. Council may or may not respond. Anybody in the room who would like to offer any public comment? Anybody online?
No hands raised, but we had 8 people.
Okay, great. All right, then I would entertain a motion to close the public comment period, please. So second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries for public participation period. Well, it's that time of year for the State of the City address. I'm glad you could show up, and I'm glad to have people online. And this is going to take about 15 minutes to settle in.
Give them a 3-minute warning. It's like 18.
Yeah, all right, yeah. Yeah, 18 minutes, cut me off, no matter what. And this will be posted online. We'll include it as a link in next week's Lambertville Matters and post it online to the city website. Good evening, everyone. The city is doing well. With the impacts of COVID and Ida ever diminishing in the rear view, Lambertville has hit a stride that feels comfortable and reassuring. And though external factors are always afoot, our community is strong, our economy is strong, and our prospects are good. Community. Community will always be the driving force of Lambertville's vitality. It can be seen in the volunteers who serve on our municipal boards and commissions, who plant trees in our parks, who serve the clients of Fisherman's Mark, who write grant applications, volunteer in our library, organize and oversee events like the Halloween Parade, the Green Fair, the Wednesday Community Lunch, Hockaday, Park Cleanup Days, Ride Shares, Shad Fest, Porch Fest, Memorial Day Parade, Christmas Tree, and the Menorah Lighting. Also those who serve on the CERT, the Chamber of Commerce, the Legion, and on the school board. And they're all, and there are those who give not just generously of their time, but also of their money. In the closing week of 2023, for example, the city's Shade Tree Trust Fund received a $10,000 donation from the family of Nancy Northrup and Jim Johnson, and a $5,000 donation from Michelle Rago. And when the library board sent a citywide appeal in late November, it received $13,183 in donations in 1 month, and with half a dozen checks from local businesses as well. The generosity of our people, in time or money or both, needs to be recognized as part of who we are, a feature so predominant it shapes our success as one of the most beloved places in all of New Jersey. Economic factors and municipal finances. Underlying economic factors in the city are strong and positive. Local income levels continue to outpace state and national levels. Our unemployment rate continues to be lower than those of the county, the state, and the country. In 2023, our assessed valuation reached $871,158,792, which represents a one-year increase of $31,540,000. And in the last 5 years, market values have increased nearly 33%. Commercial investment, whether through local or outside sources in Lambertville, is as promising as it is noticeable. The new restaurants, the new homes, the cannabis retail shops, and the rehabilitation of key buildings in the central business district all contribute to our strength. Additionally, the city now has 41 registered short-term rentals, which bring further economic as these visitors stay not simply for a meal and a stroll, but often for several days of shopping, dining, coffee drinking, and so forth. And what of city finances? They have turned the corner. 4 weeks into my term, the S&P Global Ratings downgraded Lambertville from AA stable to AA negative. And perhaps the most concise way to explain our current financial situation is to read a passage from the S&P Global Rating Report issued on December 21st, 2023. And I quote, following 5 consecutive years of decreases to available current fund reserves, operational performance for the city has stabilized in the last 2 years, which we believe is reflective of improved budgetary management and oversight. Fiscal 2022 current fund results reported revenues less than expenses. However, this was driven by the delayed receipt of a USDA grant, the funds of which were used in 2022 but received in 2023. As such, the current fund balance improved in each of the last 2 years, totaling $1.1 million at fiscal end 2022. Management has shifted its approach to its budget by taking an aggressive stance on funding operations, utilizing less fund balance and fully replenishing by year end. Certain policies have been enacted to utilize increased fees and fines, including increased beverage taxes, to cover expenses, which have resulted in improved financial operations. Management plans to sustain its current fund balance above its informal target of $1 million and continue building reserves with the addition of cannabis revenues, investment income, and increased fees and fines. Full regeneration of appropriated surplus is expected for both fiscal year 2023 and 2024, end quote. I'm pleased to report that our rating has been upgraded to AA stable. What the report doesn't indicate, of course, is that the lion's share of the stabilization came in the form of significant tax increases, even as our property values continue to climb. It's a fact so unavoidable, it must be reiterated. It's been a painful few years for our municipal taxpayers. Our municipal finances are not just stable, they're improving. When Union Chill welcomed its first customer on June 14th, the city welcomed a new source of revenue, the 2% transfer tax on retail sales of cannabis. In the last 4 months, the average tax revenue from Union Chill was almost $12,000 per month. Projected sales for Union Chill in 2024 are a whopping $9.5 million, which translates to $190,000 in revenue to the city. Baked by the River recently opened its doors on Church Street, and though I don't have projections yet, it's reasonable to assume their impact on the city finances will also be important. Raising the meter fees this year, 25 cents per hour, the rate which is still well below that of New Hope, has left us $125,182 over the 2022 number. Finance team has not worked sufficiently through the 2024 budget yet, enough for me to speak to the specifics, but these new revenues will have a positive impact to our bottom line. The city continues to be supported by an excellent full and part-time staff of 45 people. This past year saw the retirements of Cindy McBride and Trish Wozniak, tax collector and court administrator, respectively. Jessica Creo was hired as a tax collector and Catherine McLaren as the court administrator. We welcome Jill Titus to the new position of part-time accounts receivable clerk. Raymond Janito left the police department, and we welcomed Officer Henry Ziliak and Parking Enforcement Officer Jack Angeloni. We said goodbye to Susan Schlesinger, who served as fire official for nearly 2 years, and we hired Frank Burr to fill that position. Lastly, we welcomed Christopher Burkett to the DPW. As the finance team and I work through the 2024 budget, I very much hope to fund a new position, likely part-time, to assist in overseeing human resources and the management of ongoing projects. Functions and processes of human resources, dispersed as they currently are among department heads and myself, cannot be considered best practices. To reduce the strain as well as the risk, human resources should be centralized. I simply don't have the time or the training to be an effective HR director for a team of 45 people, though I note that the police department has independent procedures which are largely outside of my HR responsibilities. To wit, I am proposing a major change to our fire prevention program. I will soon introduce an ordinance designed to shift the providing lead agency for fire prevention from the city to the Lambertville Fire District. The New Jersey Division of Fire Safety audit I referenced in last year's State of the City address is not sufficiently reconciled in 2023. And I feel strongly that in order to stabilize and ensure the future success of the fire safety program, it's time for the city to hand it over to the resources and expertise of the fire district. Redevelopment. The city will soon introduce amendments to the high school redevelopment plan. In March of 2022, the city was approached by Cahovnanian for the possible redevelopment of the site. The city council and I have been in discussions with them since, and as a result of steady progress, the company was designated as the conditional redeveloper by unanimous consent of the governing body on August 18, 2022. It's resolution number 159-2022. The redevelopment of the former high school tract was included as a compliance mechanism for our affordable housing obligations, May 22, 2018 Fair Share Settlement Agreement. For all the legal dryness of the term compliance mechanism, we must remember that not only do we have a legal obligation to provide affordable housing within our boundaries, but a societal one as well. At this time, I can offer no news on the future redevelopment of 295 North Main Street, the Village Apartments. The site is under the control of the contract purchaser, and we await an amended proposal. Stormwater and resilience. The challenge of managing stormwater in Lambertville is a heavy burden and may best be examined through our reassignment to the NJDEP issued MS4 Tier A permit. In addition to our former requirements under the MS4 Tier B permit, the city must now comply with 34 new or modified regulations. For a small municipality with limited resources, the breadth of these regulations is daunting, and without a disciplined approach to ensure the necessary resources are in place, we will fail to meet the regulatory requirements. The goal is not just to manage the rainfall totals of 2024, but to prepare for the rainfall totals of 2055. With 13 miles of roads, 3 creeks, 1,800 residential units, scores of businesses, more than 540 storm inlets and outfalls, unexamined miles of underground culverts and pipes, the 100 and 500-year floodplains, impervious parking lots, dozens of regulatory requirements, ongoing cross-jurisdictional issues, a DPW crew of 8 whose primary role is trash and recycling, and a part-time mayor. How effectively can the city manage stormwater? There were hard lessons from Ida, and recent rainfall events prove that we are not holding up our end of the bargain. Increased pressure on our system is not only an environmental issue, it's a health and safety issue, and we must look at every possible solution beyond the uncertainty that the status quo will suffice. Using a grant from the New Jersey League of Conservation Voters, the city is currently undertaking a stormwater utility feasibility study with Princeton Hydro and WSP. Our first focus group meeting is this coming Tuesday. The members of the focus group have been chosen to represent a broad swath of community stakeholders. The meeting will be recorded, and I encourage all residents to watch it and to be a part of the public process as it continues to unfold. In terms of resilience, the city continues to engage its mission, which reads, a resilient Lambertville is prepared, connected, equitable, and mutually supportive, equipped to withstand, adapt, and thrive when faced with adversity. Awarded a grant from the NJDEP's Municipal Assistance Program, the city will soon collaborate with the DEP and consultants from Kleinfelder to complete a comprehensive vulnerability assessment and resilience action plan. Robust public engagement would be the first step in this process. On Tuesday, I spoke with our contact at DEP. He expects the final phase of the procurement process to be complete in the next month or so. This will be the principal focus of our resilience work in 2024. Additional projects include flood mitigation efforts here at the Peoria Justice Center and planting trees in our parks and along our streets. Municipal projects. Here's a brief run through of municipal projects this year. In the spring, Stutterford Street from Douglas to Swan will be repaved, as will a section of Swan below Stutterford Street. The entire length of North Franklin Street will be repaved. Later in the year, South Franklin Street from Highland to Swan will be repaved. The Church Street block between North Franklin and North Main will also be repaved and reinstituted as one-way headed west. The sidewalk in front of the North Union Street parking lot is scheduled for replacement the first week of April when the elementary school is closed for vacation. That contract also includes replacing a section of sidewalk along Lily Street. Michael Burns, the city architect, is drafting an RFP for repairs to the library elevator and to raise its mechanicals off the basement floor. Michael is also going to provide estimates for the repointing and repainting of the library, something I'd like to see done this year. Repairs have also been made to the roof at City Hall, and the antique iron fence has been put up along the western edge of City Hall. Lastly, the expansion of the DPW garage to include a break room and new, as well as the construction of a pole barn for our large equipment, is expected to be complete by early fall. Up at Holcomb Park, we are nearing completion of our requirements for the Green Acres program. Jackie Middleton has graciously volunteered to apply for additional funds from the County Open Space Program. And the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant is underway, the scope of which may be reviewed on the Holcomb Park webpage of the city site. A public design charrette will be held on February 22nd, 2024. Details and updates to follow. All are welcome to attend and to participate. Among the governing body, there is unanimous support for selling part of the property, namely the farm market and the log cabin, to pay down the debt, and we are actively working toward that end. There are a number of moving parts to complete sequentially and behind the scenes, which explains why it may seem that nothing is happening. As the governing body continues its work, please remember that the public are free to enjoy the open space, and I'm always happy to arrange tours of the buildings on request. Two other projects of note, the Lambertville Public School, as you probably know, is undergoing a major renovation, and the city is partnering with the district to repave the city-owned parking lot with pervious paving. The lion's share of this project will be paid by the school district, though the city will pay application fees and other relatively minor costs associated with the project. Secondly, of course, construction on the full-supported Lambertville New Hope Bridge is slated to begin on January 29th, and the renovation and lighting project should be complete by early fall. In short, the state of the city is good. Let us continue to feel grateful for our community, our history, our sense of self, plenty of hard work, and regular doses of fun. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Unless anybody has anything they want to say.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I can.
And this will be on the city's webpage?
It will. Well, to the exact text I've just read.
We can't get the YouTube clip on there.
Well, that'll be on there as well.
We can figure that out.
Oh, gosh. So we're looking at approving the minutes. So we have to do this in two blocks. So there's the December 21st, 2023 voting session minutes and the December 21st, 2023 closed session minutes part A, and the January 1st reorganization session minutes. So everybody is eligible to vote on this, and unless there are any questions about the minutes or comments, I would entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. The motion carries. And now I would ask for a motion to approve the December 22nd, 2020 closed session minutes part B. And Councilman Stegman, I believe you need to recuse yourself from this vote.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much.
I'll put it into the record.
Okay.
Thank you. Everybody have a chance to look at the administrative reports?
I did.
Yeah,
They were riveting.
riveting. Who can tell me how many tons of trash we hauled out of the city in the year?
A lot.
1,435.
I didn't know there was a chest.
I was gonna get that number.
You were a lot. It's too bad you didn't speak up, so you can winner out to lunch.
I've been watching The Price is Right all day.
Yeah.
Let's make a deal, one of the two.
Harder to find the administrative reports, but they're nonetheless, I think on page about 100.
But I actually have a question
Sure.
about the municipal, it was the hotel.
That's what I was just getting to.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So every month, the state sends out a 200-page breakdown for every municipality in the state with the hotel and motel occupancy tax. It's always hard to find Lambertville, not quite hard. We're sort of like middle of the pack. You have to scroll really fast through until you get to something something in Hunterdon County. It's usually around 110.
1017 is our code.
What's that?
If you look for 1017, everything goes by municipal code. So if you just search until you get 1017, then you'll find us.
Okay.
Or you could say control F and then.
1017.
Lambertville.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you search on
I do it that way.
Control F.
It's probably, yeah, I'm happy to scroll. Anyway, last month we took in 20,750, either 50 or $56 in hotel and motel tax, which is pretty good.
Is that also the Airbnb tax as well?
That includes everything.
Is there a total for the year?
No, we
We're
don't,
waiting for one more.
no, that was in December, so we don't total it up. Cindy hasn't, we
Yeah, I haven't totaled it.
could do a spreadsheet
She
for,
probably has it in the budget though. She's not here,
Yeah.
but you probably could do a search for that and tell us what the total was for last year.
yeah,
But the other interesting thing is our number beats Raritan Township's number. So you would think a bigger municipality like that, I think they're around 12,000.
mhm, very interesting. Good for us.
Yeah.
Not that it's a competition.
Uh-huh.
Place to be.
Well, we can get that for the next meeting.
Yeah,
Just to bring it
sure,
back.
absolutely.
Because we talk about the revenue from the cannabis sales, I think we should.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Promote that.
Happy to do that. I mean, we can record this number every month if you want, in the meetings. I'm happy to include it.
It does show the vitality of the hotel motels.
Yeah.
And probably could tie it to the economic outlook of what the city's doing.
Yeah,
So that's-
no, absolutely. It's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't remember, Bill, do you remember if it's 3%? I think I always forget if it's 2 or 3%. Is it 3% the motel?
Yes,
3%. So that's a pretty respectable, $20,000 in 1 month is pretty respectable, right? For cannabis.
A lot of holiday shop.
We could probably connect it to the meter rates too, and just get a general picture about how one aspect influences the others.
I think if you look at the meter, I think if you look at the monthly meter reports, you're gonna see pretty consistent numbers, I think, throughout the quarter. I mean, I think, sure, well, no, I retract that.
Yeah.
Well, happy to throw those in monthly as well. I mean, we can certainly do that.
And then it'll be a good, I don't know, so for now, I'm gonna, rich online, of course there is, I can get there, like in our business.
Yeah.
Businesses.
Economic vitality, that's what I would look.
You have numbers or share a little Excel sheet that you're.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, actually, we do have,
We can't do math though, so what, you don't have, you don't have to call us.
It's better than, yeah.
our go to Lisbon. So that's,
My own line,
Compare it to like 2 years, like last year, this year, so you can see if they're.
9504.
Yeah.
yeah, it was very handy. That's where I pulled that $125,000 from right at the bottom of the sheet. It's a significant number. All right, unless there's more chit chat about the administrative reports, I'd ask for a motion to accept those.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. We'll move on to the approval of the bills list. Who's in favor of paying the bills this month?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Oh.
Thank you. From the third bills tomorrow morning. Resolutions. We have the consent agenda this evening. The following resolutions on the consent agenda are considered routine and shall be enacted by one motion. Should any member of the city council seek separate discussion of any item, the item shall be removed and discussed separately. I just have one note to make here. Resolution number 30-2024 appoint Kelly Grant of Malamute, services, attorney for all matters related to COA. And Clark Caton Hints, for, amendments to the small cities, grant manual in the amount of $9,500. So it's just these two numbers, it was an oversight, it did not get into the, Kelly Grant, did not get into the reorg meeting, it was just an oversight. And we do expect our costs associated with, affordable housing, to be higher this year for reasons which I will explain another time. And Clark Caton Hints, the 9,500, that's for a manual update, and that 9,500 can be paid by the grant itself. It will not incur any cost to the city. So just a clarification on that. Were there any?
Just a quick question on the 295 North Main Street. So that's for 2021 property taxes. So they're still, have they paid 2022 or we're still in that too?
So, most of this was sewer.
Okay.
And so we now have to pay sewer because we collect for that. So let's see, yeah, just let
I
me,
think it was 29,417 for the sewer.
yeah, these are two of them for sewer. So, yeah, so they paid us 48,000, 18,000 was for 2021 property taxes. And then the sewer fees for 29, just over 29,000. I believe that the 2022, Lindsay could probably correct me if I'm wrong, is still, has a tax lien for it that they have not. Yeah, and I believe they're starting to pay 2023. They didn't know they had money to.
Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I've asked for motion to approve resolutions listed in the consent agenda number 27-2024 through 30-2024.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries. We're gonna hold off on ordinance number 1/2024. I referenced this in my speech. And we'll talk about it, but the process of shifting the lead agencies for the fire prevention program is something I feel strongly after 2 years of really stumbling. And I think that our fire prevention program, even before I was the mayor, was not sufficient. It's just after 2 years, I can tell you that I have not had bandwidth to oversee this program. The city has not done a good job overseeing this program. And so I'd like to turn it over to the fire department. There was more resources, more people on the ground who are qualified to do this work. And so you'll be hearing a lot about this over the next couple of months. There are 5 or 6 different things we have to do in order to shift the lead agency to the fire district by April 1st, which is my goal. There's an ordinance that has to be adopted. There are several resolutions. There's a shared service agreement. It's fairly complex. And we're working closely with the fire district, Frank Burr, who is the fire control, Chief Barlow and the board. And we crafted the ordinance. The state wants to review absolutely everything before we introduce it or bring it to the council. We thought we were good with this. We sent it off to the state and they want to have a meeting. So we'll still be on track to do this by April 1st. But that's just a little bit of information about that. So we'll be talking about this a lot over the next couple of months. Anybody have anything to say about that? Okay. So we're going to move on to ordinance number 02-2024. This is an ordinance of the Lambertville City Code 2014, Chapter 14, street openings to include a provision to prohibit obstruction without first providing notice to the city. So, this ordinance was requested, and well, we've had some issues in the city over the last couple of months with sidewalk closures and roofing jobs and things being stored in the street and people just willy-nilly putting caution tape up and closing off sidewalks, and without a mechanism to without an ordinance to enforce any kind of safety provisions there, we've been out of luck. So this ordinance will address some of those concerns. So there are questions from the council about this. All right, thank you. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 02-2024 on first reading for the public hearing, excuse me, scheduled for September, February 15th, 2024.
So
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. The next ordinance is number 03-2024. This is an ordinance authorizing an amendment to the lease agreement between the city of Lambertville and the Wells Fargo Bank. This will allow Wells Fargo is asking for this update to our lease agreement to amend it to a month-to-month agreement and change the 90-day termination to 45 days. This just allows them a little bit more flexibility in terms of, you know, if at some point the building sells and they want to cancel the lease. So we're sort of locked into this either way. So I don't know if there are any questions from the council on this.
So we're going month to month, you said. And also reducing the termination period to 45 days.
Correct.
what happens? if-
For Wells Fargo only.
That's what the question is, yeah.
Bill?
I'll just note that that'll start in April. Because even if they do terminate, they have to give us notice of termination 90 days prior to the end of the lease, and the end of the lease is April 23rd, so. It'll continue on the current lease until at least then if the property is not sold, say until August, September, you know, anytime after that. They have to give us 45 days notice. Wells Fargo has to give us 45 days notice that they're going to terminate at that point rather than 90 days, because we don't know when the sale will come together.
Okay.
Back to the question of, it's just for Wells Fargo, right, this lease, like, it's not transferable to a new.
Correct.
Right.
But you know, probably happen is Wells Fargo's gonna cancel, they sell it, they're
Right.
returning the lease, then we would have to reach out to the new
New
owner.
owner and do a new lease.
Right,
Yep, just checking.
but we really don't have a lot of bargaining power with this, it's a very
No.
generous lease, so
Yeah,
we kind of don't have any options.
correct.
Is there any indication from the people you spoke to that they're close to naming somebody?
I spoke to the broker for Wells Fargo today, several occasions. First of all, about the sidewalk at Wells Fargo. I complained bitterly about the sidewalk, and the DPW also did go out there today after I had several calls. I had not been there up until this afternoon, but the city had calls. I had a couple of calls and texts about it. So we sent the DPW out there. I did speak to the broker about it earlier this morning and then again this afternoon. So we took care of the problem, but I've also made it perfectly clear that they need to be taking care of their sidewalks. So I did end up speaking with them a couple of times today, broker, and I did get the telephone number for their property management company, which I now have, and they'll be looking at the sidewalks tomorrow and on Saturday and hounding people as necessary because that was unacceptable. So that
I mean, they weren't clear.
they weren't clear, they were, when I went down there at 2 o'clock this afternoon, that all of the South Union Street all the way down was just one sheer. It was just ice all the way down,
Mhm.
and the DPW were putting salt down at that point, so. Apparently they did the parking lot, but they didn't. So I will keep
I
it.
really couldn't see the sidewalk because the tree hasn't been cut properly.
Well, I was actually gonna ask, can they do anything about the tree? Can we filter that in or?
Then there's the jury.
Since Steve brought it up.
Does that?
And I'll bring up one other thing that we're talking about, if they can do something to minimize the amount of light that those, it's like a baseball field down there.
There are, yes, I've talked to the residents on Ferry Street and some on South Union Street about light pollution and about the Wells Fargo Bank in particular. There are, I learned recently at the last zoning board meeting, state regulations in terms of light requirements for banks and tellers. And so some of that may fall under, you know, existing regulations. I don't know whether the lights need to be that bright. I'm not sure, you know, I'm not sure. Something that we should, and also for the record, I did ask the broker, 6 weeks ago, the bank would consider turning off those lights altogether. Now the bank is inactive and they haven't done it.
And they what?
They have not done it, obviously.
Well, they're gonna say the same thing they said about sight lines because they are maintaining an ATM machine there.
Okay.
No, they changed, and it is kind of like safe for the ATM user at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, because you can go in, it still has the lock swipe, so I mean, I wouldn't really
Well,
want
the
to see it.
side of the building, kind of above the drive at ATM, is kind of where.
I'm sure there must be some requirements that they by law have to do something.
I think that's probably it.
And they'll get back to us on that. They've gotten back to us. But, you know,
Now I can clear your sidewalks, it's a requirement they must. It does.
Yep.
By law.
I could send. them.
No,
Probably.
all right, I'm gonna bring it back in here. Tree is a thing for me as well, but I'm not gonna talk about it tonight.
Now I just wanna go out and slow it down. The chair. You know, I just.
Shrubbery.
moved the chair that was in front of the tree, because it was just bugging me, it shouldn't have been there, it was so heavy, and then these things were plugged. And I didn't really. What I don't want.
All right. I'd like to introduce, I'd like somebody to.
Still under the tree? Are they still there, those rats?
So moved.
No, that's. They're gone.
Okay, we have a motion.
Oh, second.
Made the motion.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor of introducing the ordinance to ordinance number 03-2024 with a. Public hearing on February 15th, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We have no ordinances on the second reading. Correspondence as noted, the County Board of Commissioners, Green Acres, Jake's Law Grant for completely inclusive playgrounds. I forwarded this to the Parks and Rec Commission. They're taking a look at it, but they're not optimistic that it's actually gonna be able to be something that a program that we can kind of do here in town. Hunter County Planning Board, the public hearing for the adoption of the growth management plan scheduled for February 1st. Beginning 15 and 12 County Complex Building 1, Assembly Room 314 in Flemington. And JCP&L verified petition to establish a rate for rider loss program adjustment mechanism for sale losses occurred during the program year 1. I have no idea what that means. I'm very sorry. Okay, well, it's on the record now.
Have they done a report on what failed? What generated the problems during the last storm? And the incorrect information getting out to the people affected was really frustrating. When you look at it at one time, it says by following day by 11:30 p.m. And then it came on like early, you know, the communications are a big, they're a big challenge.
Well, I can speak a little bit to communications. I think that Lieutenant Brown and I and Cindy have a pretty good relationship with our representative at JCP&L. I can call her at 11 o'clock on Tuesday night and she'll answer the phone. So, during that outage, I did have a number of conversations with her. Unfortunately, there's often a disconnect between what she knows and what the line crews know, right? So she can tell me that a crew's been dispatched because it shows that on our system. When that crew arrives and they're looking and looking and looking, there have been a number of times when I've met the crews and had conversations with them. And they've restored the power while I've been there or shortly thereafter, and I go back to my office and then I get Amy calls me 2 hours later to say the power's back on. I know, I was out there, right? So there's a little bit of there's certainly a lag in their internal communications. And I think some of what happened last week was there were several problems. When you've got several problems that are sort of stacked in a way that nobody quite understands, until they can until they can kind of handle them sequentially, they don't really know. I mean, she didn't really know what was going to happen. They did have the time 1 o'clock in the afternoon and then following evening at 7 o'clock. And then of course we know that the power came back on for all but a couple of residents on Washington Street or somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's we do the best we can staying on top of it in terms of the communication. We're consistently posting things to Facebook, which is really, I think, our announcements go to Facebook. They're also, once they're posted to Facebook, they get transferred to the website. Everybody's got my number. I do have people that call me when power goes out. And oftentimes, and the people like you guys know more about it than I do because I'm not getting any notifications through, JCP&L as a customer, right?
Mhm.
So I do get the notification that there's 730 there, but
Yeah.
you go to the map and you don't even necessarily know who's gonna get it back first, or, so it's a.
I think there's some issues with the rate too, where
Yeah.
so people were dispatched, but the line that could go up because of safety issues.
Yeah, and that generally is not shared with the public.
Yeah.
Right, but once the wind gusts go over 45 miles an hour, they can't work.
That's right, they were.
And it was, no, I'm not doubting. it. I would,
That's the standard. It's like the DPW with the 95-degree days. They can't work around.
yeah,
84, okay. I think it should be 95. Don't tell us.
yeah, but
Um,
I think that, I think there's room it's improved a great deal from the way it was 10 years.
Well, I would say that from the city point of view, I'm not bragging or anything here, but I think we do a pretty good job of getting information out as quickly as possible.
Oh, yeah.
That we get.
Yeah.
So, the problems are always gonna happen and they're not always gonna be able to, we're not always gonna get answers. As quickly as we might like.
But Mayor, we do this time have a really good rep from JCP.
We do.
She calls
Fantastic.
back, she communicates,
Yeah.
we've not had that in the past.
Yeah, it's good.
Right, but it's valuable to give her the feedback as to how JCP&L can improve its communication. Plans for outages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did our generators hold up all right?
Yeah, I guess. I didn't hear it.
We didn't lose power.
Oh, yeah, we don't lose power.
That's good.
Oh, good.
Good.
That's actually, that's fine.
Yeah, terrific.
All right, we're gonna move on. Just a couple of updates here. As I mentioned in in the speech, the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant is underway. We have a couple of meetings now, laying out the timeline. We haven't gotten all the information out to you guys yet, but we will soon. There will be as I mentioned, a design charrette on February 22nd. That'll be here. And that'll be for anybody who's interested in this project to come and ask questions and also participate in sort of understanding what the design, the design of the park will be in terms of the plantings, and it'll be a nice opportunity for people to kind of weigh in. Fulton Park, I mentioned also that we're fairly close to having all of our paperwork in with the Green Acres. There have been changes because of what the council direction the council has taken in terms of what would be preserved through Green Acres, but we're pretty close. And do you want to just talk for a second?
Sure, we,
Specifically?
right now, we just have some minor things to go through. We had the well decommissioned. So we're waiting on a determination from Green Acres as to whether they're going to require the decommissioning of the well stamp from DEP or not. It's vague in the way that they wrote it. So that's one thing. And the other thing, we just have to gather our invoices and purchase orders to submit, and then we'll be good for our reimbursement, because it looks like they reimburse us for the preliminary assessment, for the appraisals, and for some of the other soft costs. So that's where we are. I would anticipate that we'll probably have everything submitted by the end of next week, as long as they allow us to move forward without the stamp from DEP on the decommissioning of the well. We do have it from the county, but technically DEP is of the approving authority.
Thank you.
Hmm.
So stay tuned. That's good news. Stormwater utility feasibility update. Don't have too much to say other than we'll have a focus group meeting here this coming Tuesday that will be recorded. Sending out a packet of information to those people who are on a part of the focus group. I've chosen a number of people from businesses, from Lambertville Station, from Nice, from nonprofits like the church, different neighborhoods, sort of regular just residents from different neighborhoods, engineers. I tried to work with a fairly broad group of people that represent, I think, a diversity here in town in terms of geographic and sort of a variety of things. So stay tuned for more information about the feasibility update, the stormwater utility feasibility update. I don't, other than what we've got, they're still kind of putting together a lot of data to share in the not too distant future. And that's, I think, about all I have. Just a couple of announcements here. Pet registrations are due by February 29th. Registrations received on or after March 1st will be charged the $25 late fee. Convenience center hours are listed, Saturday, February 3rd, February 17th, and Wednesday, February 21st. And landlord registrations are due by March 31st. Registrations received on or after April 1st will be assessed late fee. And now is our second public participation period. So same guidelines apply. Please step to the podium if you have something that would like to just say for 3 minutes, state your name and address.
Paul Stevens, 39 Quarry Street. Just wanted to comment on, I'm glad that the sidewalk got cleaned up here on Union and right along Wells Fargo. I tried to walk on that last night, and it was extremely dangerous. You have to walk out on the street. I hope at a minimum we're recovering spots of the DEP going out and doing that for them. It looks like this winter we're gonna have more problems with ice after the storm, because we're not getting the big snowfalls. We're getting little snowfalls, we get a little bit of melting, and then it gets to be just this sheet of ice in places. And there are a lot of people that aren't bothering to put down salt and trying to get the ice melted. And the sidewalks are a lot more dangerous this year than they are in a year when we have big snowfalls, because you can walk on the snow. There's the law of ice, 2 laws of ice. If you walk on it, you're going to fall. Second law is you can't beat the first law. Okay. So I think it's important that we start enforcing whatever ordinances we have on this. And also that in cases where the city does go out, we at least recover our costs for that we aren't doing people favors and going out and taking care of their sidewalks for them. Okay. Thank you.
Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street. One little item, one of the problems that I see what's happening this year, especially when we get to cold freeze, is a lot of people are still pumping their basements. We don't pump out basements anymore, so a lot of people, especially right here on Swan, have little pumps in their basements going out into the sidewalk, creating an icy mess. And so that's a problem in other parts of town too, but it gets very slippery and our sidewalks are not being enforced. The other issue I wanted to bring in, because that brings into stormwater, which is, I was trying to understand, so we're gonna have a focus group, not like a stakeholder meeting on this issue. It sounds kind of, to me, it sounds a lot more political than it does sound like trying to get fact finding, trying to come up with a plan to help deal with our stormwater and flooding problems in town. And, you know, I really think the town should go back and have a flooding task force to take a holistic look at the town to see what works in different areas, because every part of town is a little bit different, and to focus more on flooding, not just stormwater, because stormwater is much about water quality as water control. The other thing is when you're doing with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and the work going on up at the Slippery Clawson Farm, that'll probably be in my head till I die. So is to see what kind of benefits are going to come and how much water will actually be saved or stored during the different types of floods. You have a 2-year flood, a 10-year flood, 25-year. What actually will be the outcome, because you'll get a sense of what the cost is. I mean, my problem with rain gardens is they're fine for water quality, but they do nothing for stormwater control for flooding, because they're too shallow and they don't absorb enough water and they're fairly expensive. The other point I really think you have to look at is, you know, we're going forward with the focus group, but we still haven't even seen the study. And I think we've got part ahead of the course in that respect. And the other concern that I have is that we really should be looking at becoming a FEMA resiliency zone to go after federal support and help. I know you've been talking to DEP, but we really need to get that type of designation to be able to get the resources we need. Because when you set up a utility, by the time you get paying for an executive director, a secretary, having some professional staff and meetings, it's like $300,000 a year. That becomes very tough in a town that's too small, and the cost of our problems run into the millions to replace one culvert on Main Street going Swan Creek will probably cost 8 or 10 million. You gotta get DOT or someone to do it, because we can't afford it. And to come up with a comprehensive and holistic approach to flooding, you have to look at the individual lot, the neighborhood, the sub-watershed, watershed, and the region. You can't do it in one piece. And so, anyway, I hope this will be an open process, and will the focus group be open to the public, or just get to see the tape?
It's good to see the table.
Thank you.
Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street. I wanted to emphasize and point to the bridge renovation project that's coming up that you mentioned, Mayor, in your announcements, because this is a big deal. There's gonna be pedestrian access. This is huge. People struggled for that, starting in the very first meeting, over and over, and they said it couldn't be done, it couldn't be done, it couldn't be done, it couldn't be done, and then a week ago, it could be done. I don't really care how it happened, that it suddenly could be done. Whether what they said is what really happened or not, it doesn't matter. But it would be good, it seems, for the city to think about ways we can be focusing, not to spend money, but sort of in a bully pulpit kind of way, to try to encourage that people will be coming over here on foot and not in cars. I also, though, we've tried in the past to have maybe special days when the city forgives parking for a special day, and the merchants have the opportunity to use that as a marketing hook and say, come to Lambertville on Wednesday, free parking, or whatever it might be, so that we can try to generate a lot of awareness that we're here, besides that there's gonna be a little bit of an issue with the bridge renovation. And secondly, Jeff brought up what I had noted also, this focus group thing, focus groups as compared to other ways to do it, and I'm just basically agreeing and supporting the ideas that we aren't there yet. And part of what was out in your State of the City speech was a number of things about the town that probably, yes, need attention, and probably, yes, should be part of our prioritization. But it wasn't clear, and it won't be until the budget, I understand that. But some of the things that we will do to try to address water issues, including talking to regional other places, which is part of the whole thing. We'll be looking forward to hearing more on that sort of thing too, because again, I would agree that the focus group might be a little bit ahead of its time in this project idea. Anyway, thank you.
Anybody online? Okay.
Margaret, you wanna go ahead?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. It's Margaret Carmelli from Maxwell Assets and Canal Studios, 1 North Johnson Avenue, Hamilton. I first would like to thank the mayor for having 2 meetings in December, 1 to walk the creek, not literally, and 2, a second meeting at City Hall to talk about flooding and the concerns of various property owners in the city about flooding. So I appreciate that those meetings were set up, and I think they were beneficial. And I think you all have a letter that I sent extending our appreciation of that. As representing commercial landlords in Lambertville, and as part of those commercial landlords, Maxwell Assets and Canal Studios, the impact of Ida and COVID is not really behind us, nor is, I don't think it's behind the other commercial landlords in the city. COVID has had an impact on how commercial spaces are leased, by whom they are leased, and the amount of time. And certainly the impact of the flooding, the commercial landlords are still trying to release. I wish I could say it's in the rearview mirror, but we're still dealing with that. On the resiliency consultant, I learned this evening that the focus group had been selected. I guess I'm disappointed that I didn't get an invitation, nor do I know that our commercial landlords got an invitation to be a part of that, having spent countless hours at meetings, sending letters, trying to have an impact and to offer our services. So I guess I'm somewhat agreeing with the other commentators tonight. And I'm just interested to learn who comprises that committee and how they were selected. And I do hope that the commercial landlords are represented on that committee and the business community as well. I was also disappointed to generally hear that I don't think any of the items raised by Mr. Sullivan and the resident group that he's involved with, and Mr. Sullivan had a work commitment. He's not here tonight. I don't speak for him. But I didn't hear those issues and concerns to be a part of the resiliency consultants' work. So that was a little disappointing. I'm not sure that we know the time, or I didn't catch the time of the meeting, and whether the focus group that I guess has now been selected, if that's going to be broadcast live so that we can watch, or published later. And perhaps some clarification on that would be helpful. And I think that in terms of openness of process, it would be very helpful for us if the certification that the city has applied for in connection with the list of historic structures and this whole resiliency consultant process, if that could possibly be a part of the mayor's report every 2 weeks. If there's nothing to report, nothing to report. But I think that would be helpful to those of us in the community who are very interested, because otherwise we're sending letters and we're asking if there's anything new, and we might be able to learn that. Thank you for your time this evening.
Anyone else? Good. Now we motion to close the public comment period.
Move.
Second. Second. All in favor, please say aye. 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 I'm just gonna touch on a couple of things that Margaret said. So Margaret, you may be a little bit confused about the two different things that are happening. So the stormwater utility feasibility study focus group is different from the municipal assistance program grant that we've been awarded through the DEP. So the list of people who were chosen by me to serve on the focus group will be made public. Obviously, it's a public document. We'll put that in. I contacted and had conversations pretty much with everybody. I think that the two large, one of the things I did was to specifically invite two of the largest commercial property owners, the station and East Lumber, both of which have very large portions of impervious surface. These are the business owners that are going to be potentially most impacted by stormwater utility fees. So I wanted to make sure that they were a part of the conversation. So that's in regard to the stormwater utility focus group. The municipal assistance program, I've not had a chance to write to the group in the north end of town over the last couple of days. But as I noted in my speech, I spoke with our contact at the DEP on Tuesday. And did learn more information about the program itself and how that's going to roll out. The first component of that will be public engagement. There will be a public meeting when anybody in the community can come and express their concerns, their thoughts, ask questions about what a vulnerability assessment should incorporate. It could be everything from can we take a look at the Army Corps of Engineers project? We're concerned about this. So all of that will be a very public process right from the beginning. So I'm pleased to report that's a 5-step process. I just got a complete scope of what that looks like from the DEP. I'm happy to forward that as a document to all of the people up at the north end of town and anybody else who would like it. So that is basically all I have to say at the moment.
Or do we have a city council representative on the stormwater focus group? Or do we have a liaison to it? Wasn't Councilman Stegman, weren't you participating in the stormwater?
One meeting.
Yeah. Oh.
No, not the stormwater, no. I
Oh,
was present for the first meeting on the feasibilities.
Yeah.
For the utility, wasn't.
No, not in this book.
No.
Oh. So is there a council representative?
There is now, there is the mayor.
Okay.
Right, at this point, I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor, please say aye. I think.
We have those-
We don't, okay, let's.
No, we
I'm
did.
going to-
Yeah, we did, and then Mayor Noah made his response.
Yeah.
So, did we vote on adjournment? We did. Okay,
We vote on it again,
thank you.
we'll save it for next time. We'll adjourn too.